record this. Listen, every year in this class and in my other programming class, uh, I have caught people cheating, and every year I try to do something more to prevent it because it makes me very sad. But it often happens around now. I'd say November, December, when people start feeling a little desperate. So, um, so I want to remind you. That all of you signed a programming honor code at the beginning of the year. It's in the Google Classroom, one of the first documents in our whole thing. I'm giving you a pep talk about cheating now. Most of you are, and the vast majority of you are not cheating and are not thinking of cheating. I did see some signs on the Unit 4 test that sure looked like cheating to me, but it wasn't. I didn't have any proof, so I didn't follow up on it. But it did make me decide to talk to you about it. So I want to just go through this briefly. What is cheating? Cheating is copying somebody else's work and saying that it's your own. So you could be getting the thing by email, text message, a photograph, a screenshot, a Discord, or somebody could have read it off to you over the phone. All right. So it could be copying and pasting actual code, or you typing up exactly what someone else has. That's both of those are cheating, whether you type it or you copy it. And so I get all kinds of questions, and these are some of the scenarios that have shown up. Last year, 5 kids in this class turned in one assignment that was identical. And they said, oh, well, we worked on it all together. So, hey, here's a question. What if you all worked on it together? I say, hey, that's great. I'm glad you're working together. I'm glad you're cooperating and helping each other. If you shared a screen or did it on a Discord or whatever you all do, shared document, wonderful. Yeah, you could share a REPL all together and type it. Okay, great. That's great. Don't turn that in though. If you did it all together, then you need to close that window and you need to each retype it yourself by yourself. You need to, no matter what happens, you have to do it by yourself. You can't, if you all turn in the same thing, you will all be marked as cheaters and it won't be pretty. All right. So I support you talking with each other, helping each other, working together, whether it's in our breakout room or over the phone or sharing a screen or whatever, during class or not during class. But when you're done, you actually have to do it yourself. So you can't just take a project you did with someone else and then turn that in. It's not a group project. All right. So here's another one. What if I did it by myself and then someone else took my code and turned it in as their own? I've had that happen where someone was just trying to be helpful to someone else. Like they were like, oh, hey, hook a bro up with assignment 14. And the person giving it just thought the person was going to look at it and then use it to help them, but the person who received it just actually turned it in, changed their name at the top and then turned the thing in. Listen, that's cheating, and if you give your code to someone else like that, you're helping them cheat, even if that's not what you intended. So please be careful and don't give your code to other people. Of course you can help each other, but please do not give someone else your code. It's just so tempting. Here's a question. Are you saying then we shouldn't help each other? Of course not. So please help each other. And let's say you're helping each other. Great. You figure it out. Great. Then, you know what? If you really want to know how to do this stuff, you should then close that window and you should redo it. Like you all should be able to sit down this afternoon and do the Sunday class just cold. We just did it, and not all of you finished it, but if I asked you to do it again in 10 minutes, I would hope you could do it again, and if you had a little trouble the first time, you probably have less trouble the second time. That's how you learn, is by practicing. So if you're not sure if what you're turning in is yours enough, then just don't turn it in and do it over. Peek at your previous answer, that you worked on with a friend or whatever. So, but you don't have to use the same variable names. You don't have to have it all formatted exactly the same. Like, as you wouldn't use the same tests as someone else. Um, I'll ask if there's any questions in a sec. So here's another possible scenario. What if you just watched one of my videos and you typed in exactly what I had? And you could say, well, that's why my code's exactly the same as so-and-so's code. Listen, the chances that two of you are going to type exactly the same thing into the computer, just by watching my video is so small. I see all kinds of differences in the spacing and and uh, and listen, I'm not gonna. It's very unlikely I'm gonna say that you're cheating on one of our daily little assignments. I'm more concerned with like a test. I mean, I'm concerned about all of it. So please don't copy anything. But but on the day of a test, if two people um, turn in exactly the same thing, it's going to be pretty obvious that you work together somehow. So one way to really clearly make your code your own is when I say, please create your own sundae uh, with your own flavors. You could make something crazy, or just because in my video, I made a snack object called Snickers with calories 200, you could do a different candy bar and a different number of calories. Or at the bottom of this page, I showed a bouquet named Bubba. What a ridiculous name for a bouquet. And I said cactus flowers. I bet that's really rare. Bright orange and 42. Like, make up your own tests so that it's obvious that you're working on this on your own, not just blindly copying someone else's work. Hey, and I'm almost done, but you guys should see what this is like in college. When I started out, I first made my programming honor code like 3 years ago, and I Googled programming honor code, and all these college links come up. And I was super surprised because in the college level, they're claiming it's cheating if you even talk with a classmate about an assignment. Like, literally, they're saying you're not allowed to even strategize or talk with a classmate about a programming assignment at the college level. So this link here to Stanford it's in the I just found a Stanford one. They tell you what's allowed. They tell you what's allowed, and you have to say that you got the help. And then there's assistant that's not allowed. Okay, copying, reviewing the design or code of another person. They say you cannot even look at somebody else's code. You can't receive any tutoring help on work you're going to turn in that is for a grade. You can't do debugging with someone. You can't go Google stuff that's specific to the assignment. You cannot show your code to someone else. It gets really serious. So I'm saying it's okay for you guys to talk to each other and help each other. Not on a test, obviously, but on our regular assignments. So I'm because I want you to learn the material. Hey, and just wrapping it up, if I do catch that people are cheating, I gather all the evidence and then I confront the people involved. We have a really difficult conversation. Then you get a 0 for the assignment, and I give you a referral to the administration. And it actually goes in your academic record. And I think if it happens a second time in any class at the school, I think you might end up actually getting expelled. I'm not sure. Like, you don't get to keep going to school here. So very, very serious issue. I mean, the first time you don't get expelled, but you're going to regret it. It's not worth it. So listen, I say at the bottom here, if you're struggling in this class, I urge you just to admit it to yourself and make plans to ask for and get help. Make time to watch some of the other videos, ask for an appointment for help. I offered last week, hey, I said, hey, anybody want a little office hours on Wednesday? I'm happy to set up a time. None of you asked me for help. So I know I'm not your only class, and I know we're all busy, but um, if you need help, there's lots of ways to get help. And then I say here, if you're too busy to put in more time, okay, accept where you are and just do the best you can, even though you're confused and you're not caught up. And it's better to honestly crash and burn than to try to save your grade by cheating. You could say fail with dignity, um, if you cheat, there's just like short term, like maybe you didn't get an F on this current test, but you're still, it's not going to fix anything. So my last page here on this is, but I'm lost, behind, confused, and cheating seems like an easy way out. Listen, cheating is unethical, it's bad, it's dishonest, and it's wrong. And your choices are not just cheat or fail. There's infinite possibilities. So if you're struggling in this class and you admit you need help, you can make plans for getting help. So listen, I'll offer it again. If any of you need help, you can email me and ask for an appointment tomorrow, and we can go over an assignment or answer specific questions. I'm happy to do that. If you want to do better, there's my notes videos. There's AP Classroom has, oh my gosh, 2 or 3 videos for every single section, and you can watch them. You don't need my permission. I don't have to assign them to you. You can just go in there and watch. I watch them at double speed because I mostly know what's going on, but I've learned things watching those videos. So there's lots of ways you can help yourself. I urge you to take charge of things if you are struggling, and not consider cheating. Any questions? Thanks for listening. It's not a pleasant conversation. Okay. Thanks for listening. Okay, so now that that's behind us, let's do notes. So we're going to talk about section 5.7, static variables and methods. All right. So we've seen the word static here and there, and today I'm going to explain it. So static implies that a method or a variable belongs to the class as a whole rather than to specific instances of objects, instances or objects of a class. So a static variable belongs to the class itself. All objects share the variable. That would be like if you had a flavor variable and you had a pie class and you made 100 pie objects, and then you in one place could change the flavor from apple to blackberry, and then all of a sudden you had 100 blackberry pies instead of 100 apple pies. Like, we haven't had anything like that before. So when is this useful? This is useful if you want to have like a unique identifying number for each member, each object in a class. Like, well, I'll show you specific examples in a second. Also, it could be useful if you had, say, you were selling products in a store and there was a tax or a discount that applied to all the objects in your database, then you could change it in one place if it was a static variable, and then all the objects would know, hey, my discount is now 20% instead of 18%. I'm going to show you a specific example. So this is, pardon me, a book class where you notice at the top, I say private static int next ID equals 1001. So this is a class where every book is going to have it looks like a title and an ID number. The way we do this is we have a static variable that that holds what the next ID number is going to be, and see, that's owned by the class at the top level, and then every book object has its own personal little integer ID and title. So when we create a book, we call new book with a title. It sets the title to the T variable, and then it sets this book's ID to the next ID variable, and then it adds 1 to next ID. So the next book will have the next number in the sequence. So this is the kind of thing we're going to do today. I'm going to have you do update a student class to make sure that each student has a unique ID, and then we're going to do a voter class where, like pretending there's an election and each voter would have their own unique ID. But I have more information on this book class. So check it out. When we create a book object using this class, the constructor sets the private int variable to the value of next ID. That's again right here. And then we increment next ID to be up 1. So the first book created would have an ID of 1001, and the second book would have an ID of 1002, and so on. I think I have another example. Oh no, here's running this code. So running this code, I book 1, book 2, I print them out and see the way this works is you have an ID. And so we just have a regular int ID variable, and that's where each book's individual unique ID is stored. But we have this shared variable called next ID, and that's hanging around at the class level. And when you create a new book, it can grab what that variable is and use it and change it and then set it aside. So this variable next ID you see is not used in the toString because next ID belongs to the class, the book class as a whole. And the one that gets printed out with each book is the one that's just called ID. Any questions? I mean, I will say, I know it's a little tricky and we're practicing it twice after the notes. So let's take a look at this. I have a ticket class. And I did it a little bit differently here. This ticket class, I have next num starts at 1999, and then each ticket has a private integer variable called ticket. And when you make a new ticket, and in this version, I added 1 to next num before I used the number. So every time I make a new ticket, I'm just going to add 1 to our it's like a global variable that's available to everyone. I add 1 to that, and then I store that in this specific ticket. And I was thinking about tickets like tickets to a show or something, or raffle tickets or something. So let's take a look at this. Running this code, I created 4 tickets, A, B, C, and D, and then I printed out the D ticket, and then I printed out the A ticket. And when I print out the D ticket, 2003, that's correct because the A ticket was 2000. I'm just showing you that the numbers go up by 1 each time and that they're specific to the individual objects. I'm looking at the chat. So I did this I did this ticket example a little bit differently than the book example in that I'm adding 1 to the next number before I use the next number. If we go back and look at the book, for the book, I set the current ID to this variable next ID, and then I added 1 to the next ID. One way or another, you have to add 1, or you have to change your global variable if you want each item to have a different number. Hopefully I answered that question. Any other questions?
Could a static also be a string variable?
Oh yeah. Yeah, any variable could be static, any type. Yeah, for today, I just, when we start coding, it's just gonna be 2 practice examples where it's an integer, but yeah. So here I did it wrong. So check it out. I only have the static variable. So we have this ticket class, and every time you make a ticket, it says next num. But check it out. I made 4 tickets and they all have the same number, 2003, because every time I created a ticket, I added 1 to this next num, this static variable, and I'm using next num in the toString, And so there's really only one number for all the tickets in the world. I mean, this would be a useless, a useless thing to have done. But so again, comparing this with the right way to do it, you have the static variable that holds like what you want it's like you're keeping track of which numbers you've used already, and then each individual ticket object has its own little private integer that grabs that shared number and uses it, and then we change the shared number so that the next ticket ends up with a different number. um, um, yeah, I think it'll make more sense once we actually do it, and then I'll be one of these ones where doing it really helps. So one more thing, static methods also belong to the class as a whole. And interestingly enough, if you have a static method, it's not allowed to change private class variables. And so mostly this is something we don't have to worry about. I'm not going to test you on it, and I've never seen it show up on the AP test. But I'm mentioning that you can have static methods. So like this example has been in all of our programs: public, static, void, main, string, args. That's just like that's the method that gets run when you try to run a program. You know, all our REPLs have one of those up at the top, and just go with it for now. You don't have to understand that. I mention it because I wanted to just cover method headers. We've been using methods and writing these things. And so let's go through the 5 parts of a method header. Method headers have an access level. So that's normally our methods have been public, right? Like looking down at the bottom, public string to string and public void set GPA. But they can be private, and you can have a private method. That means it can only be called from inside of a class. And I should certainly come up with an assignment where you have to do that. But for now, just know public or private is the access level. Then ownership is whether or not you have static there. If you do have the word static there, it means that method is owned by the whole class, not by a specific object, and it controls whether that method can what variables it can change, stuff like that. Again, we're mostly not going to do that. Then methods have a return type. So what type of data is sent back by the method? String, int, double, Boolean. Or if no data is returned, then it says void. And then what's called an identifier, which is a fancy name for the name of the method. And then finally, a parameter list, or just empty parentheses if there's no parameters. So there's examples of all that down below. We have the public string to string, has the empty parentheses. There's no parameters. But the next method says public void set GPA, and then has double G, which is, supposedly the GPA you're sending over. So even though I'm saying there's 5 parts, lots of times you only see 4 parts, because if the word static is not showing, that's not there, but it was optionally there. Before we do coding today, I wanted to talk about the final exam. Then we're going to start doing coding, and I'll help you guys finish, those of you who didn't finish the warm-up. So your final will be Thursday next week. And actually, it covers everything we've done so far this whole year. I mean, that might sound a little crazy, but we're going to review everything between now and then. And we got one little review thing today. So there'll be string and substring problems, and for loops and while loops and if statements. It's stuff we've been doing. So don't think, oh no, I got to learn all this stuff. It's stuff we've been, this class builds on what you've learned. And like we just did an if statement in today's warm-up. So it's we will definitely review everything, and and we don't have a separate Unit 5 test. So on the final, I'm going to be having you write a class or two, which is, really the Unit 5 core concepts. So there shouldn't be any surprises. Everything that's going to be on the final will be every type of problem you'll see in a review, and there'll be no surprises. All right. So any questions? All right. So our first up now is we're going to write. I give you a student class. It's the one I used, I think last class or the one before. I just had a kind of a simplified student class, but I'm asking you to take that class. It's already written, but I want you to add a student ID number to it. So I just posted that. Let's go ahead and get started on that. And then in a minute or two, I'll post the voter class assignment. And then finally, I have a silly substring assignment called boatface. I don't know if you heard, but several years ago, some scientific organization launched an internet naming contest. They asked people on the internet to name their big boat. and the winning entry was Boaty McBoatface. Oh my God. So anyway, you're going to make a boatface method. Really, hopefully it brightens your day just as it has brightened mine. Yeah, and I'll make breakout rooms for those who are interested. And I will also stop recording.